Thank you. So the term conic sections comes from a cone. And sections means that we slice it. So we'll see if you can get a little bit of a feeling for what's going on from a geometric standpoint. Geometry preceded algebra as well. If I were to take a knife and slice off the end of that cone, what shape would I get? You get a circle. Everybody agreed? You slice off the end and you're just going to get a circle. A circle is a conic section because it can be sliced from a cone. Here's another one. Suppose you had this. You took a knife and you sliced it like that. And you were to open it up and look and see what you got. Would you agree that your slice would kind of come to a point right there? And then as it came to that point, it would start to kind of wrap out. Somebody describe the shape?
Parabola.
A parabola is a conic section. Here's another conic section. This is the last one I want to talk about today. Suppose I slice like that. You can see it's going to come to a point there and a point there, and it's going to bow out in between. What shape are you going to get? An oval or an ellipse. Can somebody think of something in our world that involves ellipses? Planetary motion. Agreed? And so conic sections, its study is quite old. It's been a long time, and you can understand that as people lived throughout history, that understanding planetary motion and distances and making predictions and calendars, you can understand how important that was to them, right? Yeah. So that's why this is such an old study. Let's start with something this is a 2-day lesson. We'll start with something you're a little bit familiar with, and that is parabolas. That'll be our first conic section. And by the way, I think that most people, when they get to the test, they actually feel like the parabolas part was the most challenging one for them. And so you already know about it, so that should tell you that this unit is very, very, very doable. Ellipses are quite easy. Some people say those are kind of hard. Parabolas, hyperbolas a little bit, who knows. Shifted conics, I think that's the toughest part, but we'll get there as we get there. So let's start. The definition of a parabola, the set of all points whose distances from the focus and the directrix are the same. The set of all points whose distances from the focus and the directrix are the same. Yeah, we haven't learned about a directrix yet, have we? In fact, we haven't learned about a focus point yet either. And so, for this test, you create your own set of notes. You get one page front and back. You don't get any examples, but you can write equations, you can draw pictures, you can give yourself instructions, however you want to do it. Or you could use the one that I have at the very end of your notes, which seems to help basically nobody. Okay? It's up to you. But you are in charge of doing that, and studies show that as we produce graphic organizers, you perform better when you develop the graphic organizer compared to me. Get my point? So, here's what the graph of a parabola looks like. The graph that you are familiar with. And there's one point on a parabola that we've always talked about. What is that thing on the parabola we always talk about? The vertex. So I'm going to put a dot there, and I'm going to write V. So we know it's vertex. It turns out that there's two other things that are important. In the definition, it didn't use the term vertex. It used the term focus and directrix. The focus is a coordinate that sits on the inside of the parabola. It's a coordinate that sits on the inside of the parabola. The directrix is a line that sits on the outside of the parabola. Is everybody okay with that? So, I judged you as I graded your tests. Some of you may feel like I've judged you too harshly. I will give you a chance to judge me. Who would like to be judging me today? Okay. We'll let... What? She's not even listening. She's got her ear pods. You want to judge me? Because I was going to say Patty. His hand went up first. We'll let you judge me the first time. Janessa can judge me the second time. How's that? All right. So Patty, in order for me to have drawn a perfect parabola, if I pick any point on the parabola, the distance from the focus to that point must be the same as the distance from that point to the directrix. Are those the same distances? How would you grade me on a scale of A, B, C, D, or F in terms of my drawing of this parabola?
That parabola?
Yeah.
Like the parabola's over the length.
Okay, so grade me. Don't feel bad.
B plus.
B plus. Wow, I give myself a C minus. So anyway, but you know those really aren't close, are they? Really aren't close. But that's the definition. And so my goal is going to be to draw a perfect parabola later on today. We'll let Miss Janessa give me her judgment on that. So how do we know where to put the focus in the directrix? Very simply, the focus is P units from the vertex, and the directrix is P units from the vertex. P units up, P units down. We have a formula for calculating P. P is used in this equation. A is equal to 1 over 4P. We set that up and we can find P. You all good? We're going to write that right now. A is the coefficient that goes in front. Today we talk about vertical parabolas. Y is equal to A times X minus H quantity squared plus K. I hope that looks familiar to you. How do we tell about the direction of opening of a parabola? If A is positive, it goes up. If A is negative, it goes down. Anybody tell me by this equation, what is the vertex? 2 letters. HK. The horizontal shift and the vertical shift. Remember that parabolas have this imaginary line that divides it in half, right down the middle. It's called the axis of symmetry. Is that a vertical line or horizontal line? Do vertical lines have the equation of x equals or y equals? Very good, x equals. And what is the x value that passes through? H. Oh, sorry. Passes through H. As we locate the focus point is P units up. Does that change the x value of the vertex or the y value of the vertex? The y value. So therefore, it is H and then K plus P. The directrix is P units down. And that is a horizontal line. Does a horizontal line have the equation of x equals or y equals? Y equals, and it passes through y equals K minus P. And finally, we have this thing called the lattice rectum. Is Latin for lateral, and rectum is actually Latin for segment. And if you think of biological, terms, segment, that makes sense. So it is the segment that shows how wide to make the parabola. That is the lattice rectum. And the way we calculate the length of it is we take the absolute value of 4P. So I am ready to construct my perfect parabola. I'm setting off on my adventure. We will allow Janessa to judge me. Janessa, get ready. Here's my first one. Tomorrow I go through the other three examples. I'm going to look at direction, vertex, axis of symmetry, focus, directrix, and length of lattice rectum. Those are the characteristics that I will fill out. Thank you for all your help today. It's been amazing. Somebody tell me the direction of this parabola. It is up. Yep, I just wrote dx for directrix. Can somebody tell me the location of the vertex? -2, 3. Great. The vertex is located at -2, 3. Now is the time where you need to trust me. My son will come home and he'll ask me a question on math. And sometimes he'll be like, "Are you sure, Dad?" And usually I pause at that point and I'm like, "Yeah, Micah, yep." And then when he asks me again, "Dad, are you sure?" At that point I say, "Micah, do you know what I do for a living?" Okay? And he still struggles to trust me. You guys have trust issues as well. And here I'm going to tell you right now. Do not fill this entire thing out and then try to graph it. I've seen students do it through the years, and most of them struggle with it. It doesn't work. Sketch the graph as you make these determinations. And for those of you who have atrocious handwriting, you will be judged on your graph of whether or not I can read it. Figure it out. It's more than just will. All right.
Do I draw an island if I can?
So, I'm going to plot my vertex. I'm going to make a 7x7 graph. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And I will now plot my vertex back 2 and up 3. Anybody lost yet? Okay. Axis of symmetry. Instead of trying to name it, I'm just going to draw it. Now that I've drawn the axis of symmetry, can somebody tell me, vertical line or horizontal line? Good. Look at how easy that was. I drew it, I named it. In order to figure out these last three, there's a value I need to determine that I have not determined yet. What is that value? P. And we know that A, which is 1/8, is equal to 1 over 4P. What could you do in that equation to solve for P? Cross multiply. Obviously, though, P is what? It is just 2. P is 2. So what that tells me is I move 2 units for my focus. Do I move 2 units up or down? I move 2 units up because the focus sits on the inside of the opening. 1, 2. Now that I plotted it, now name it. What is that coordinate? -2, 5. Patty said I moved 2 units in each direction. He's correct. I moved 2 units the other way, and that tells me where I put my directrix. Horizontal or vertical line? Horizontal. And so that's a y equals 1. Notice how I draw it and then I name it. That is an easier way. Finally, the length of the lattice rectum. That is how wide to make my parabola. I take the absolute value of 4 times P. What is P? 2. So what's the absolute value of 4 times 2? I get 8. So that means that the parabola is 8 units wide at the focus. So I'll move 4 units on each side of the focus. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So now I know how wide to make my parabola. So I'm going to go ahead And now sketch my parabola so that it goes through those spots and heads on up. And now we will have Janessa judge me. Are you ready, Janessa? I'm going to pick a point on my parabola, and I'm going to see how that distance right there, how that compares to the distance from that point to the directrix. The red line and the black line. Do you think they're the same? You do. So you're going to give me an A. Let's try and let's really check this. I'm going to turn this and drag it and put it over here, and we're going to check. I'm off by like an entire thumb, aren't I? I obviously have not. Am I even qualified to teach this class? That's part of the question right there. Yeah. I am slightly embarrassed. I'm going to go home and I'm going to practice my perfect parabolas. Tomorrow, I have a chance to do 3 of them for you. We'll see if I'm capable of doing it or not. But that's where we're at. So the directrix is this horizontal line. So I move 2 units down, and that line goes through y equals 1. Whatever p is.